Hey guys, it's Lee Taylor. That's the 2022 BMW iX3, and this is a right lane review. BMW's top seller, the X3, has long been a fantastic machine, and now that the era of electrification is upon us, and ignoring the quirky i3, it's the first mainstream model to get the full electric experience here in Australia, as the iX3, and I have to say, it's a hell of a start. On the outside, the iX3 looks a lot like the X3 in which it's based. Same body proportions, same lines, and overall, pretty much the same exact shell, but all with a little bit of eco flair. Take the shut-off grille in the front, for instance, and the M Sport pieces, which are a little bit more aero-friendly. Underneath this body shell, though, is a completely reworked system. There's a nice big battery pack down low, electric motor out back, and BMW says, still all the ultimate driving machine flair. So how is the BMW on the road? Well, as I said, BMW says it's the ultimate driving machine DNA stuck about, and I think it very much is. On the day-to-day life, it's a typical X3. Same size as an X3, based on the X3. It feels very much like an X3, perhaps an even more buttoned down and sharper X3, but we'll get there for a second. And it's a great place to be because it's electric, it's quiet, and they've done a really good job of noise insulation in this car. So even at highway speeds, there's not a ton of noise about. You do have that Hans Zimmer sort of motor noise that it gets pumped into the cabin to kind of give you a sensation of speed, which is pretty cool, and it's much louder in sport mode. And you have three settings on this car. So you have sport, which obviously gives more electronic response from the motor, and the steering weight's up a little bit, but it's pretty easy going. You have Eco Pro, which is pretty much Eco Pro, just conserves as much battery as possible, takes the climate down a little bit, limits your throttle response. Then you have Comfort, which is just kind of like a normal setting. And Comfort's a nice, well-rounded piece. I normally drive this thing in sport because I like the response from the motor. And overall, even in sport around town, it's a great car. And you also have the ability to put the system into B mode on the transmission, which basically means you have a much, much harsher regenerative braking system. Pretty much as soon as you lift off the pedal, the regenerative braking kicks in really hard, and it creates a one-pedal driving experience. And I've done that a couple of times now, and it's actually quite intuitive. But I find that I don't need it because this car has adaptive regenerative braking. So the camera out front, along with the GPS system, knows when you're at a junction or behind a car in front of you that's braking, and it'll actually engage the regenerative brake system smartly to slow the car down faster and kind of give you that one pedal feel. And it's a little bit smoother than just the really harsh regen mode. So it's actually my preferred piece. And you can set how sensitive that is within the iDrive. So day-to-day living, brilliant car. A fantastic all-rounder. You get around 400 Ks of range is what we've seen out of it this week, and I don't drive them nicely. I don't drive for eco. I drive it as if I was driving my own car, which at the moment is an i20N, so it doesn't get an easy life when they're in my hands, press cars. But they say it's rated to 100 or 460 Ks, which I think is a little bit optimistic, as the WLTP cycle tends to be. But overall, I think it's a good piece. You do have the option for DC fast charging, so you can go 20% to 80% in about 40 minutes on this car. And with this from BMW, you get a few years of a ChargeFox membership as well, so you can use any ChargeFox point around Australia, which is actually a pretty good deal. Price-wise, you're looking at about $114,000 before on-roads, which undercuts most of its competitors by nearly 20 grand, and the range is a couple of Ks more than most of its competitors as well. So overall, a really good package. Now, if you dial it back to dynamics, that's where I think the iX3 really shines. Yes, it's heavy. It's over 2,100 kilos of car sitting here. That's mostly down to the battery packs, which sit super low in this platform. BMW kind of future-proofed the X3 platform for this iX3. You have a rear-wheel drive engine with an E-diff on it, so it can actually shuffle power a little bit, and a nice set ratio steering in the front. And because you don't have a lump of aluminum and iron sitting out over the front axle or sitting above the front axle, the car actually feels really light in the hands, and the steering gives you quite a bit of feedback. Now, I've chucked this iX3 about a little bit, and I have to say, I think it handles significantly better than a stock X3, mainly due to that weight being nice and low and the center of gravity being low, and it's not on those stupid run flat tires. It's actually got a great chassis underneath it, and you can feel it. And then you add on the fact that it's rear wheel drive. The weight is really well managed with good dampers, a little bit stiffer than an X3, but not too crazy. And you get a machine that's actually able to play with you. If you know what you're doing, you can kind of coax it into a little bit of moving about, let's say. And I think it drives just as good as a 330 3 Series BMW. I think it drives just as good as a 340. And that's high praise for a car that's twice as tall. And this is a very tall SUV. This is a family hauling machine. You can put the kids and the dogs in the back, and it feels like a 3 Series in the hands. This is what an electric car or electric SUV should feel like. Something that's athletic and easy to live with and enjoyable, and it actually engages you, even with that Hans Zimmer, you know, funky noise that it makes, which I actually quite like. It sounds like a spaceship to me. It engages you all the right way. And I have to say, out of all the SUVs in this class that we've driven, this is probably my favorite. That includes petrol SUVs. Now we have a couple of high performance SUVs coming down the pipe, which, you know, are my cup of tea. But I have to say, bang for buck, quality, driving experience. There's no SUVs at $150,000 that are electric that, you know, feel this good in the hands, I think. And I think this is an absolute winner from BMW. And I hate that we're getting it a year late because of COVID, because now the iX is here and the i4 are here, and they just look and feel, you know, a leap ahead. But this is a fantastic SUV. So if you got 114 grand plus on-road sitting around and want to go check out an SUV that you can actually enjoy and drive like a normal X3, you gotta go drive one of these because this feels fabulous. The interior on the iX3. Well, luckily, it's a lot like the X3 in here. In fact, it's pretty much exactly the same, which means you have the BMW family interior, the super high quality of materials that we're used to from BMW, the nice big chunky M Sport wheel, the full digital driver's display, heads-up display, nice big screen for the iDrive, which includes gesture control, as well as wireless CarPlay and Android Auto. Down low, a couple of cup holders and a wireless charging pad for all your electronics, and then you have your drive modes here in the middle. You also have all this really cool park tech, which includes a 3D screen around the car, front cameras, rear cameras, complete visibility around the vehicle itself. It will park itself completely without touching the accelerator or steering, as well as the full reverse assistance. Beyond that, you have all these lovely electric blue touches, which are kind of denoting the fact that this is in fact an electric BMW. And if you weren't sure to begin with, it also makes a really cool noise when you're driving, which was tuned by Hans Zimmer himself, the Oscar-winning composer. It's not quite Lion King, but it's still pretty neat. So how's the back seat in the iX3? Well, as before, it's just like an X3. So there's plenty of space, plenty of knee and shoulder room, plenty of headroom, nice views out thanks to this massive roof. Your own zone of climate, a couple of USB-C points, beautiful materials, including speakers for the Harman Kardon, nice comfortable seats that were adjustable and rake as well, but they're not quite adjustable in the front, which is fine, plenty of space. But you do have cup holders and a nice cubby just in case you need some extra storage, and overall, beautiful place. So how's the boot in the back of the iX3? Well, lucky for us, it's based on an X3. So you get a nice big electric tailgate and a nice low load floor, so you can get things in and out. You can sit on the back and watch a game, get the dogs in, nice and easy as well. On the inside is plenty of room for luggage or baggage or whatever you may need, including trips to Bunnings and or IKEA. Plus, the seats do fold down flat. Now, the only downside is the fact that you don't have any storage under the load floor, or at least it's not as much as the normal X3. But you do have a little compartment here in the back for storing your chargers and a first aid kit and maybe some other small items. But overall, the boot's nice and big and quite practical. So So what's the tops, bottoms, and final verdict on the 2022 BMW iX3? Well, on the bottom are a few niggly things. One's the fact that you don't have any storage out front in what would be the frunk, because that's where all electronic major components are, thanks to the fact that's where the engine would be in the normal X3. Charging capabilities are a little bit hit and miss because we don't have all the infrastructure here in Australia. So if you can charge at home or at work, that makes it great, but finding a ChargeFox charge point can be a little bit tricky. Beyond that, the car feels a little bit dated because the iX and the i4 are here from BMW and they're a significant step ahead. But this iX3 is still quite special. So what's on top for the iX3? Well, to begin with, you have all the fantastic electric smoothness and refinement out of this system, which means it's quiet, easy to live with, and super relaxing to drive. On top of that, it's really responsive thanks to that electric motor, and it feels just as good as BMW's legendary 3 Series. On top of that, you also get the added bonus of this being based on the X3, so you get most of the X3 practicality, a very nice SUV, and it's cheaper than most of the competition, about 20 grand less than Mercedes or Audi equivalent, and it has a little bit more range than them on the WLTP cycle, and I've seen about 400 Ks out of it, and I drive a little bit aggressively, so overall, a fantastic package. So what's my final verdict on the 2022 BMW iX3? Well, it's taken our favorite Bavarian SUV and gave it even more refinement. So if you want something with the normal practicality of a premium SUV, but the smoothness of the electric revolution, and you don't want to miss out on the ultimate driving machine, you had to check out the iX3. Oh, I'm gonna play with this for a second. How is this?
Is that volume?
Yeah. I should be able to like.